Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Fantastic Four Volume 2, Number 4, cover dated February 1997. So this is Heroes Reborn Fantastic Four by Jim Lee. The cover is, of course, penciled by Jim Lee. It's a classic posing Jim Lee type cover. So we've got the Fantastic Four, but front and center, the Black Panther. And you can see there, if you study the costume of the Black Panther, it is not all that much different from the original Jack Kirby design. So Jim Lee not really going to mess with a classic costume design in this case. And of course, Lee's pencils are inked by Scott Williams. And this is a nice cover. The only issue I have with it is the colouring. It's a little on the dark side. Again, it's one of those situations where in the mid to late 90s, when the digital colouring came in, the colours would look that bit brighter on a screen and they're kind of printing a little darker. And that's a problem with some of the interior pages as well. Not all of them, but some of them. So let's open this one up to the first page. And we have our setting is dusk falling over the African nation of Wakanda and a lone figure stumbling out of the deep dark jungle. So we have our establishing shot there. We can just about see that lone figure there in the bottom of that horizontal panel. Here he is. He's looking panicky. He's got some high-tech equipment there that he is carrying. I like the little detail of the skull in the pupil of his eye, and then what is this dinosaur-like creature that rips him apart, and then his corpse is on the ground. You can see the little fly that has landed there on his bloodied finger. So nice storytelling in the art by Jim Lee. Now the scene is dusk, and so the colors are dark and reflect that. But I think this would have been, it would have been a little bit more effective if this had taken place in daylight. We could see things a little bit better. So let's continue. That's our setup, and then the scene switches. We have a splash page, and half a world away, a somewhat similar scene plays itself out. This time, the playing field being the concrete jungle of New York City. So Johnny is getting attacked by these female clawed hands. Look at the size of the fake nails on this particular hand there. And they're all in love with him because now the Fantastic Four are famous for what they did in the previous issue, saving New York from Namor and the Atlanteans, and also Giganto, that huge mutated sea creature, that whale. But what's Johnny up to here? He is shopping for toys in Toy Biz. The title of the story, The Heart of Darkness. The credits there, Jim Lee, plot and pencil. So this is Jim Lee's story. Brandon Choi is providing the words on script. Scott Williams and JD, the inks. So that's John Dickens, is the inker along with Scott Williams. And my sense there is that JD might be doing some of these pages entirely himself, but it's actually quite hard to tell which pages are by which inker, because John Dickens at this time was, I think his name is it Dickens or Dickinson, one or the other. He was pretty much inking in the style of Scott Williams, so it's hard to tell the difference between them. And then the rest of the creative team, Joe Chiodo and Martin Jimenez on colors, and Rich and Dave of Comic Craft on the digital lettering. So we get one of these horizontal length panels. Again, this is a Jim Lee staple where he has reverse silhouetted the figure, so we can see this crowd of women chasing after Johnny as he goes for the exit. Out he goes and into the parking lot behind the toy store. And he says here, I could probably get into this if they weren't all 14-year-olds. There's my bike, time to make a quick exit. But he sees the Fantastic Four signal in the sky. Now, that does not look like a 14-year-old girl's hand here, that one in the foreground. But anyway, let's get back to the story. So he recognizes something's up and, he flames on, waves goodbye to all the girls there. So long, ladies, it's been real. But he doesn't forget his bag of toys, and we'll see exactly what it is he's bought a little later on in the issue. So somebody else that sees the sign in the sky is this figure here. Is it Ben Grimm back in human form? No, but whoever it is has a very square jaw and is looking at a newspaper article about the Fantastic Four and their headquarters, their new headquarters in the Baxter building. So this is going to come back into the story some pages later from here. And then the scene switches to one of the New York City streets, and there is a caravan being driven by this particular guy. What's his name here? Richie. So he's the chauffeur, and the Thing there is in the background, and he's looking for the woman he met in the previous issue, Alicia Masters. He's taken a fancy to her, just as he did in the Prime reality, and he sees this woman with a knapsack on her back and thinks it's Alicia. Stop the car, Richie, he says. Dang it, I can't get out. My mitts don't fit these pint-sized handles. But this is interesting because I pointed out in my review of issue number 3, somehow he was able to use Nick Fury's cigarette lighter in order to light Nick Fury's stogie when piloting the shield craft, as I said in the previous issue, but now he can't open the door handle. So Richie here is, he puts his face in his hands. Why is that? Oh no, not again, he says. Let's turn the page. We get a great double page spread coming up here. Look at that. That is fantastic art by Jim Lee. So the Thing just simply ripping open the door and out the side of the car there. Lots and lots of detail. There's no scrimping on the details here. We have fine detail on the facades of the apartment buildings on the other side of the street there. And we also have little fine detail like the sponge in the car seats there. That's burst open. The treads on the tires. Yeah, lots and lots of detail. All the items that are falling out of this woman's grocery bag as well. Yeah, no details skipped in this drawing by Jim Lee. So very, very effective. And I've pointed out before that he does a very good thing. And you can most definitely see that here. And I think he's enjoying drawing the Thing. He's given the Thing quite a few double page spreads over the course of the 4 issues so far. So it turns out, of course, this is not Alicia. And nonetheless, this woman takes a shine to Ben. It's okay, really, she says, about the mistaken identity. My place is just around the corner from here. Can I offer you a drink, she asks. Maybe you could come over and tell me why they call you the Thing. So that's a bit risque, a little bit of a potential double entendre there. And that takes Ben aback. He says, I'm sorry, lady, but I really got to go, because he's only got blue eyes for Alicia Masters. So let's get past these advertisements, continue with the story. So it's interesting here, all horizontal panels and another Jim Lee device of an open border panel as well. Nice top-down angle there. We can see all the wreckage that he's made of the caravan. He now sees the Fantastic Four sign in the sky, and from the flare gun that, as it turns out, Sue set off. So he makes his excuses because Judy calls, and off he goes. And here we see that Johnny's arriving also to the Baxter building. Again, lots and lots of detail here in the background for the cityscape and apartment buildings. And so, yeah, Sue is up there on the roof on her own. She's got a stopwatch here. So, what's with the flare, sis? We got a crisis situation or something? No, it was all a test. It was just a test, Johnny, she says, which you failed miserably, I might add. Your response time was totally unacceptable. What did you do? Take the scenic route through Central Park. So he asks that she cut him some slack. And then he asks her to cut him some slack. And then she asks him, hold on, why is your costume red? My excuse for being late, he says. I dropped by the Toy Biz to pick up some of the, our licensed toys. Check this out, 2 costumes means 2 different toy figures, one in regular blue and the other in combat mode red. Is this great or what, he asks, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. So there you go, you can see these little action figures of the Human Torch, already in production, already for sale on the shelves, and a kind of a little meta dimension there to the creation of actual Heroes Reborn figures as well at the same time. Really great hatching and cross hatching here for the rendering of the muscles here on Sue's thigh and around her knee as well. Really nice. I really like the way that that's done. Whether it's by Scott Williams or JD, I do not know. So Sue asks her brother rhetorically, will you ever grow up? And then the Thing is arriving. Why ain't I surprised? Well, when he's done playing around, says the Thing, why don't you two join us in the comm center? So Ben is down there in the communication center with Reed. Reed is working away. He says, in the meantime, I have some news of my own. I've completed my analysis of the data retrieved from the prototype's black box. So this is all a reference back to issue number 1. Unfortunately, rather than painting a clearer picture of what happened to us, the data has raised more questions. What I do know at this point is that the cosmic radiation emitted by the stellar anomaly fundamentally altered our molecular as well as our genetic structures. With that in mind, I was hoping to find a key to the transformation effect, one that I could use to try and reverse Ben's condition, because that's a staple of the regular Fantastic Four book and Jack Kirby and Stan Lee's run. Reed was always trying to find a way to get Ben back to his human form. And he continues, he says, but the more I analyze our condition, the more I come to realize that there's something very unusual about our present situation. Haven't you all noticed how quickly and easily we seem to have acclimated to our new abilities, almost effortlessly? It's almost as though we've always had them, but that simply doesn't make any sense. So this is intriguing for the reader, that we know that Reed, Sue, Ben, Johnny, and all the rest have come from the Marvel Universe into this alternative universe. And it really is them in some sense. And so, yeah, they have come over, whatever the mechanism was. Well, it was the defeat of Onslaught, but however that worked in terms of the physics, they have come over with some kind of, so to speak, muscle memory of the powers they had in the Marvel Universe. So Ben here says, you're right, it don't make sense. He means, want to try again in English this time? So let's turn the page, and Reed continues there, but it looks like he has applied a lot of brown foundation to his face. See, that's another one of these kind of over-saturated colorings of some of the pages. Very dark and murky. This panel here with the Thing, obviously there with Reed. So some things not quite translating from the computer screen onto the printed page. This page looks a bit better with the colors compared to this one. So Reed continues and he says, well, I can't say for sure, not yet at least. However, I may have found another clue that could help me solve this riddle. So we're on to the next thing now. From the telemetry data in our flight recorder, I've managed to locate the point of impact on Earth of the object that emerged from the stellar anomaly and irradiated us. It crash landed somewhere within the kingdom of Wakanda. So that's what we see there. We see the continent of Africa. And so Reed and Sue are booked to pay a visit to have a private audience with the king of Wakanda. And this is because T'Challa had a great many business dealings with the Storm Foundation, Sue says. So the Thing is wondering, well, what about me? What about Johnny? Well, I figured you would hate to pass up your engagement with Ms. Masters tonight, says says Reed. She called and left a message while you were out. So the Thing there thinks it's a joke, first of all. And Johnny says, trust me, Ben, he still needs all the help he can get with that sense of humor. So he is being truthful. So there's a setup now for Ben to make a connection with Alicia. Several hours later and nearly half a world away, this turns out to be the Fantastic Car. That's what Reed is calling it. And he's gotten the basic craft from Tony Stark, but he has repurposed it and rejigged it, made it better. Now this ship can achieve hypersonic suborbital flight, he says, and enable us to make transglobal trips in a matter of a few hours. And then I think, a little bit dryly, he says, sorry, I hope I'm not boring you. And she replies here, how could life with Mr. Fantastic ever be boring? But they're being accompanied by some jets who are checking out whether they're friends or foe. And then Reed sends an IFF code to them, identification friend or foe. So the code is received and confirmed, and they're welcomed to Wakanda and escorted to the landing field. So a bit of procedural stuff going on there. And then we're back in New York City in the Baxter building, and the Thing here is all kind of like wondering about this upcoming potential date. I can't believe this, he exclaims. Alicia called me. She wants to get together for coffee. What do I do? So Johnny's enjoying his friend's discomfiture, and then the alarm goes. So the security alarm. And this is the guy from the street earlier wearing the trench coat, and he's carrying a gun in his right hand, and he starts firing at the Human Torch. That's crazy. So the Thing grabs his arm and he says, all right, cut that out before someone gets hurt around here, namely yourself. So we can't see the guy's face 100% because it's in silhouette from the brim of the baseball cap, and we're not seeing his face there, but he's got kind of long hair. Unsure about his skin color because of how dark the colors are on this particular page. But when the baseball cap falls off, Ben recognizes whoever this is. Holy cow, he exclaims, you? So who is this? Someone from the past. So then we're back to Wakanda. We have the formal welcome of Sue and Reed by T'Challa. So we get our look here at Jim Lee's design for T'Challa. And he's talking about how there's dark forces at work in his country. In the past 2 weeks alone, he says, 2 expeditions sent forth to locate the impact site of the anomaly object have vanished without a trace. So that's what we saw on the first page to this issue. Now we know what that was about. Now, I feel I must investigate the situation for myself, he says, but first I must prepare for our journey. So he starts getting into the Black Panther costume, and see the kind of what would you call it, collar that he has behind his head there. It's not there on the cover. That's interesting. So I wonder about that. Did Jim Lee change his mind about the design of T'Challa's costume between the cover? Because the covers are usually drawn for the purposes of soliciting the comic well before the entire comic itself is drawn. So did he have a rethink then about details of the costume? Perhaps. So, interesting too, when he pulls on the mask, his speech balloon, the color of his speech balloon changes from ordinary black to this dark blue purple. Intriguing. So he's going to go to a council of his people. Now I must meet with my council to instruct them as to their duties in my absence, he says. In the meantime, the two of you should rest. You must be spent from your journey. So they're going to see him in the morning for the expedition, and that gives Reed and Sue an opportunity for some romance. Early the following morning, they're out into uncharted territory. Susan from here says, T'Challa, I can offer you and Dr. Richards no further guarantees concerning your safety on this journey. And Reed is inspecting the flora of the environment. He says, we've definitely crossed into a fallout zone. Genetic mutation of the indigenous foliage is occurring at an accelerated rate. So he says here, we must be approaching ground zero. Just look at these trees. They should only be 6 to 8 feet tall, but now they're towering up in the sky like sequoia redwoods. And T'Challa senses something. Stop, hold your positions, we're being watched. So look at this. Is this the kind of dinosaur creature that attacked the man on the first page? So Reed stretches over, grabs it, and it's a tiny little lizard. It's merely a lizard, says T'Challa. Not just any lizard, says Reed. It's been exposed to high levels of cosmic radiation in much the same way Sue and I were. So that has to be the explanation of the huge creature that attacked the man on the first page, just not this particular lizard. And then somebody off panel says, "You're correct, human." So let's see. Everybody's taken by surprise. And what is this that is striking from the shadows? But you'll not live long enough to learn the truth. So we don't get a good look at it, but T'Challa's men are being picked off. Now we've got a nice panel here, top-down angle on the trio plus T'Challa's guard here. But look at this little canister that's been thrown from the jungle out onto the ground. And Reed tells Sue, "Get away from there." So at the last possible moment, Sue Storm uses her power to create an invisible force field to save Reed and herself from the deadly blast. So that works. So the two of them are saved. And then Reed's scanner starts beeping. The pad. So here's the explanation. Portable analysis and detection device. The pad's locked onto the source of the radiation, says Reed as he peers from behind this foliage. Apparently we're not the only ones interested in the object. So we're looking down now behind them towards this plane with, look at the tail, a D on it. Now that's a clue as regards who owns this plane. And look here on the right hand side, we have in silhouette the 3/4 side profile, reverse side profile of T'Challa. So he's there too. He survived the blast. So Reed says, "Someone's been a step ahead of us all along, and according to these readings, what we're looking for is inside that container. Once they get it aboard that aircraft, there's no way of knowing where they might take it. So it's up to them to stop it." They all infer, and look who's down there with the plane, except for Wyatt Wingfoot. Now, we haven't seen him since the first issue, if I'm correct, and he's there demanding that the prize be loaded into the cargo bay. T'Challa sneaks up behind Reed and Sue, puts his hand over their mouths so they don't yell out. "Fear not, it is I, the Black Panther," he says. Well, obviously, eh? And now they decide to go down. T'Challa saying the time has come to avenge his men. So another classic Jim Lee device here, where we've the figures in almost complete silhouette, except for little small details of Reed's costume. They're down on the ground, but they spring a trap, and T'Challa's unable with his strength to keep the trap open, so they become sealed inside, and a neuro disruptor goes off. So that means that they can't use their powers properly, and that's what means that they can be collected also from the ground and put aboard one of the planes as it takes off, because they're running behind schedule. And another device of Jim Lee's there, these horizontal panels, but here where we have, again, you can see the plane is mostly in silhouette, except for the D there on the tail of the plane. And now, look at that medieval type castle there up on the hill. I really like this detail of the cockerel in the foreground, so we know it's dawn now. And also the detail there on the buildings and the streets as well. Lots and lots of work on these panels. So here's everybody recovering from the neuro disruptor. The Black Panther says, "I'm unharmed, but all my senses tell me that we are no longer in Wakanda, or perhaps even Africa for that matter. But who brought us here and why? What is going on?" So someone off panel speaks and says, "As one ruler to another, I shall enlighten you with the answers you seek, T'Challa of Wakanda." So Sue doesn't recognize who it is, but Reed does. That voice, despite its electronic distortion, I'd recognize it anywhere, he says. So now turn the page. We had one double page spread in this issue earlier. Now we're going to get another one. After the advertisements, look at this. This is excellent. So it's Doctor Doom. And again, you can see It's so interesting. Jim Lee has decided not really to alter very, very much Jack Kirby's original design, because again, it has to be the case that he's thinking to himself, how on earth can I improve on a design classic? So there's only little tweaks, but for the most part, this is Jack Kirby's costume design for Doctor Doom. So what does Doctor Doom have to say? He says, how flattering. After all these years, Richards, you still remember me. But then, how could you ever hope to expunge from your memory the name of the only man who was, and still is, your intellectual superior? I bid you all welcome to the castle of Victor Von Doom, the ruler of Latveria. It is my hope that you enjoy your stay here, because, of course, drumroll, for none of you shall ever leave this place alive. And to be continued. But look at that. That really is a regal pose on Doctor Doom. And of course, he's got a chalice there, filled to the brim, no doubt, with the very best of Middle European wine. So there you go. And there is one last thing to take a look at in the back of this issue. We have also, look at that. So Anthony Wynn going from Top Cow to Marvel to work on Wolverine. So bringing some of that kind of Mark Silvestri vibe a little bit back to Wolverine. And last page, Jim Lee, proud as punch to run this letter from Stan Lee, where Stan Lee says, please thank Amy Z-Man, whoever she is, for sending me the advanced copies of Fantastic Four #1 and Iron Man #1. The proofs look just as spectacular as I knew they would. If they're this sensational in black and white, I can just imagine how awesome they will be in color. My hat's off to you, Jim. You never let us down. So Jim Lee, basically, when he got that, he decided we run that as a letter. Enough said. There you go. So he has the imprimatur of the co-creator of the Fantastic Four there for his Heroes Reborn reconfigured version. So I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Fantastic Four #4. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. If you enjoyed my review, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.